All right, let's talk about something that affects every single one of us every single day. Food. But not the food you know. We're digging into the future of what's on our plate.
So imagine this for a second. What if your dinner wasn't grown in a field, but engineered in a lab? And what if every single meal was perfectly tailored not just for what you like, but for your unique DNA? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but this isn't fiction anymore. We are standing right on the brink of a revolution that could totally change our relationship with food.
Okay, section 1, our sci-fi food future. Let's get into it. Because what used to be pure science fiction is now becoming science fact in labs all over the globe.
I mean, that quote really nails it, doesn't it? This is so much bigger than just a few new products on the grocery store shelf. We are talking about a massive shift that questions everything: what we eat, how we make it, and even why we eat it. The very definition of food is up for grabs. And let me tell you, the stakes for our health, our planet, and our society, well, they couldn't be higher.
So, section 2, the promise of progress. What does this revolution actually look like? Well, it's being built with a whole new set of tools. Tools that promise to solve some of our absolute biggest problems.
This new food toolbox is, honestly, mind-blowing. First up, you've got cellular agriculture. So instead of raising a whole cow, you take a tiny sample of its cells and grow them in what's basically a big stainless steel tank. You're literally brewing meat, no animal required. Then there's vertical farming, where we're turning city warehouses into these stacked, high-tech farms. And don't forget precision fermentation. This is where we program microorganisms like yeast to become tiny little factories that crank out things like milk proteins or egg white.
And the goal behind all this? It's huge. The vision here is incredibly ambitious. The people behind these technologies, they imagine a future where we can produce amazing, nutritious food absolutely anywhere, using just a fraction of the land, water, and emissions of traditional farming. A world where our food supply isn't so vulnerable to climate change, and maybe, just maybe, we could actually end global hunger. It's a really powerful, inspiring idea, for sure.
Okay, section 3, the unseen costs. Because with any big revolution, right, there's the promise, and then there's the reality. And this is where we've got to start asking the really tough questions. Behind that beautiful utopian vision, there are some very real, kind of unexpected costs. So let's get past the hype and look at the hard questions.
A perfect food system. Sounds amazing, right? But can we actually pull it off? Because even though that vision is so appealing, the road to get there is just paved with massive challenges: scientific, economic, and environmental.
And here's where things get really complicated. That big promise of sustainability, it's not so clear-cut. A recent analysis from UC Davis, and this thing sent shockwaves through the industry. It suggested that the whole process of making lab-grown meat could have an environmental impact orders of magnitude higher than regular beef. Why? Because you need the super purified, almost pharmaceutical-grade stuff for the cells to grow in, and making that stuff takes a ton of energy.
So why are all the studies so conflicting? You see one headline that says it's great for the planet and another that says it's terrible. Well, it's because nobody has actually done this at a massive scale yet, not really. So every analysis we see is basically just a projection, a guess based on different assumptions about technology that, frankly, is still being invented. We're in totally uncharted territory here.
And you see a really similar problem over in vertical farming. I mean, think about it. Growing plants indoors means you have to replace the sun, and that means a ton of electricity for lights and for keeping the climate just right. This chart lays it all out. Electricity can be 60, sometimes even 70% of the total cost to run one of these places. That makes it incredibly hard to turn a profit. And, you know, it makes you question the whole environmental footprint thing all over again.
Okay, section 4, nutrition, perfectly personalized. So, while we're trying to figure out these huge macro-level problems of scaling up food production, another part of this revolution is going in the exact opposite direction. It's scaling down, all the way down to the most local level you can imagine, your own body.
So let's talk about precision nutrition. This is a game changer. The whole idea is to just throw out those one-size-fits-all food pyramids we all grew up with. Instead, we're talking about creating a diet that's perfectly optimized for you. Your unique genetic makeup, your metabolism, even the bacteria in your gut, all of it designed to maximize your health and hopefully prevent disease.
So how on earth does that work? Well, it's all about data, your data. It's this omics pipeline, right? First, genomics. They analyze your DNA to see what you might be predisposed to. Then proteomics and metabolomics. They look at the proteins and metabolic processes happening in your body right now. And then, and this is the crazy part,
AI takes all of that incredibly complex data, crunches the numbers, and spits out dietary advice that is literally designed just for you.
And the potential here is, well, it's profound. We're not just talking about losing a few pounds. Studies like the huge Nurses' Health study have shown for years how what we eat can dramatically change our long-term health. The real goal with precision nutrition is to give every single one of us the playbook to extend not just how long we live, but our health span. The number of years we're actually healthy, active, and feeling good.
All right, Section 5. Who controls our food? This all sounds amazing, but it leads to a massive question. If we can design the perfect food, who owns the patent? Who owns the blueprint? And that brings us to maybe the single most important issue in all of this: power. Who's going to be in charge of this new food system?
To really understand where we might be heading, you have to look at where we've been. In traditional agriculture, a crazy amount of power has already been consolidated. Just look at this chart. Today, just four giant corporations control over 60% of the entire global seed supply. That gives them an unbelievable amount of control over farmers and ultimately over what ends up on our plates.
And this completely flipped the rules of farming on their head. For literally thousands of years, farmers saved their best seeds from one harvest to plant the next. They shared them, improved them, but the new corporate model, it treats seeds like software, as patented intellectual property. A farmer who buys these seeds isn't allowed to save them for next year. They can even be sued for it. It locks them into this cycle of dependency on just a handful of massive companies.
So knowing all that, it forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question. As we build this brand new food system from scratch, are we just going to make the same mistakes all over again? Are we heading down the exact same path of consolidation and corporate control?
Well, the early signs are not great. Research from Penn State points out that this new field of cellular agriculture is already starting to look a lot like the old corporate structures. Instead of scientists working together openly to solve these huge technical problems, what's happening is that the research and the data are getting locked away inside private companies. They're siloed, kept as trade secrets, and that could slow down innovation and put all the power in just a few hands.
So, Section 6, designing our dinner. This is where we are now. We're at a crossroads, really, with two very different visions for the future of our food.
For pretty much all of human history, our food was something that came from the earth. We grew it, it was tied to the land, to the seasons, to our communities. It was a part of nature.
But the food of the future? That's going to be different. It won't be grown, it'll be designed. And that means we have a choice. We have this incredible opportunity to design a food system that's more sustainable, fairer, and healthier for everyone. But we could also mess it up. We could end up designing a system that's even worse for the environment, with even more power concentrated in the hands of a few. The technology itself is just a tool. The final design, that's on us. So the real question is, what will we choose to create?